What do you make of Tyreek Hill being traded to the Dolphins just a couple days ago?
I think it's huge. One for Tua's development. Tua necessarily has not had a number one in his tenure in Miami. Granted, Tua has been injured for the majority of his career thus far, but when you go and you get an electrifying playmaker like that, someone who can change the dynamic of a game, someone who legitimately makes a defense team for that one individual player, I think that that opens the door for a lot of things that Miami has not been able to do. They've had a couple of random speedsters come through, Jakeem Grant. Obviously, you had Devontae Parker as the big bodied receiver, and then you go and you draft somebody like Jalen Waddle, who again is fast, but it was his rookie year. Tua had to get into a rhythm. They had Jacoby Brissett come in for some injuries, so there wasn't really a lot of consistency other than get Waddle the ball and hope something happens. Now you have not even arguably, you have the actual fastest duo in the NFL on the same team. And then you go and you sign Raheem Mostert in the offseason, who runs a 4.34 40 himself. We don't know what he's going to run now after his MCL surgery, but granted, he's still going to be a quick back. So in general, you go and you equip Tua with a lot of different weapons, and then Tyreek Hill is just basically the icing on the cake. I mean, he can run the route tree, but of course, he's known for his electrifying speed and running the go route, the post route, the bubble route. He can do special teams for you. So this gives Tua everything, but this also takes everything away from him. So everybody is saying now that Tua has all of these weapons and these options and an offensive minded head coach, and they go and they sign a top five left tackle, they're saying that this is going to be Tua's last straw. If the Miami Dolphins don't succeed, this is going to be on the shoulders of Tua Tagovailoa. And unfortunately, that does suck because he went from a person that just needed to stay healthy to prove he was worth a fifth overall pick to now saying if he doesn't do well this season with all these weapons, he may not be in the NFL anymore. And I'm not saying that he'll get cut or that he'll never be in the league, kind of like a Johnny Manziel kind of thing. But I think that his value will drop drastically and Miami will look elsewhere next offseason. That is a bold take, but I'm going to stand by it. And I know that is going to agree. There are flashes that show Tua can play in the NFL, but there are also flashes that show maybe he wasn't ready. I don't know. But overall, the addition of Tyreek Hill as a whole makes Miami a better team. I say that that makes them a furthermore competition for Buffalo to compete for the AFC East. I still have Buffalo winning the East, but overall, I think Miami is going to be a little bit more competitive and fighting for a wild card spot next year.
Kevin, I'm with you 100% on this one. I think that when you add somebody like Tyreek Hill's just athletic ability to that wide receiver core, it's a game changer. Now, just because you have somebody like that on the roster, it doesn't mean that it's going to be just the Dolphins are going to go out there and win 13, 14 games. And this is really dependent on what's going to happen with Tua next year. Now, Kevin, like you said, there have been flashes of greatness from Tua, but to me, they're too sporadic just because Tua's still relatively young in his NFL career. And there have been times where there's been some inconsistent play where he's turning the ball over, he's not getting out of the pocket in time. And just overall, he's a developing quarterback. And I understand that, mistakes happen. He's still getting used to the style of play that the NFL presents. But with this wide receiver core at his disposal going into this upcoming season, this is huge. To have Tyreek Hill, one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL, coming off of probably his most productive season throughout his entire career. He had over 110 catches last year, over 1,300 yards, excuse me, over 1,200 yards receiving last year, and had almost 10 receiving touchdowns with the Chiefs last year. And then to go alongside that, you have Jalen Waddle, who's one of the up and coming stars at the wide receiver core, who is big in Alabama, and I imagine he's going to transition very well going into his second year with the Dolphins. And you could potentially have Devontae Parker as well. Now, there's been a couple rumors circulating that Devontae Parker may not come back to the Dolphins next year. Let's just say, for example, just for hypothetical sense, let's say Devontae comes back next year for the Dolphins. You would have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Parker at your disposal to go along with, like you said, Raheem Mostert and Mike Gesicki at that tight end spot. That is a great target core to go alongside what Tua has at his disposal. So this is really dependent on what Tua is going to be able to do. As long as he's protected, as long as he can stay upright and he can stay healthy, I think that Tua is going to do great things next year. I think he's going to take a big progression step next year just because when you have those targets to be able to throw to, you're going to have options. Most of these guys are speed guys outside of Devontae, but I think that really what you're going to see is Tua's going to take a bigger step next year. And I think it's in large part what Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and potentially Devontae Parker bring to the table. So, as far as what I think of their overall impression going into next season, I think they're going to be a much more competitive team. I think they have the offensive weapons to go out there and score 25 points consistently. I don't know if they can crack the 30-point mark like teams like the Chargers, teams like the Chiefs can do, and maybe the Bills as well. But I definitely think that going into next year, I think the Dolphins are going to be a much more explosive offense than what they've been in recent memory. It's on Tua's shoulders, and he's gonna have to carry the load on this one and make things happen. So I think they have an outside chance to make the playoffs with this roster at this current point in time, but these guys have to go out and execute. And even though you add Tyreek Hill to the roster, it really is dependent on Tua and his ability to execute going into next season.